responsibilities and decision-making power. We are responsible for enforcement, which covers our powers of arrest and prosecution. We are responsible for public use management, education outreach, scientific monitoring and research, and we also serve as a focal point for site management for World Heritage Sites, so it lies within an NGO. We work with 8 stakeholder communities that directly depend on the resources of these marine protected areas, and it's primarily in 2 sectors, fishing and tourism. And these are just some of the images that really portrays the work that we are doing in Belize with all of these different sectors, with these different stakeholders. And in regards to the partnership that Compact has with not only our NGOs, Southern Environmental Association, but they have several partnerships with other NGOs, other CBOs, and other World Heritage Site agencies that manage our reserve system. Through the partnership in Belize, Compact has really allowed us to increase organizational capacities. They've allowed us to support community-based initiatives directly linked to the management of these sites, and also increase stakeholder engagement. When it comes to the Southern Environmental Association, Compact's partnership has really allowed us to grow from a small, volunteer, community-based organization to a fully staffed organization that have been able to create stakeholder awareness among the fishing and tourism sectors and provide alternative livelihood training in dive master, in fly fishing, and we've really allowed the resource users to move away from solely resource extraction, but now from directly benefiting from the sustainable use of the resources. In one specific example that I'd like to share here is that the partnership has really allowed us to take on a community-based approach to expansion and protection of the reserve itself. We've gotten to the point where the stakeholders, the fishers in particular, have been able to provide direct input into the identification of priority areas for full protection, really allowing us to look at where are the best areas to expand or to establish no-take zones and replenishment zones. They've fed into the mapping of those sites, and they've also, along with us, identified economic alternatives that will allow for their full support of expanding the protection of these sites. Compact has also allowed us to work along with them, and Compact has directly funded mariculture initiatives that are allowing these fishers to now really benefit not only from the full protection of these sites, but also from other initiatives that are providing additional income. These are just some of the activities, again, in particular pertaining to tourism, where they are directly benefiting from the partnership. And here what I really wanted to highlight is the achievement through Compact is that we've really been able to build and develop true community stewardship. As most of you probably know, Belize is on the endangered list, World Heritage Site, and it's only through true community stewardship that we are able to, at the site level, at least for several of the 7 sites, really engage communities. They benefit directly from the resource, from the income generated from these sites. And even though our threat is at a national level, when you look at the site level and you look at the management of these sites, we've been able to really build community stewardship, build community support and ownership for the continued protection of these sites. And it's only through community stewardship that we can continue to ensure, I think, the integrity of World Heritage Sites globally. With that, I'd like to say thank you.
to go back to the presentation as Terrence made. We're seeing some wonderful examples of experience at site level. I know there are going to be a lot of questions, so I'm going to review a few lessons learned. We'll have time for questions. We'll then be hearing from Verena about Go for BioDiv. No, actually, we're not doing that one just yet. Could you go back to the one that's Terrence Day 80? Yeah, and we have to sort of scroll through. Actually, Terrence, could you give me a hand getting to that point? So I'll just reflect for a minute on a couple of the points I think coming out of the presentation so far, and on this point about community stewardship that Nellie makes. This is absolutely key in a region like the Belize Barrier Reef and the Gulf of Honduras as a whole. It's impossible to steward a resource like that without the engagement of the fishers. And what's powerful, I think, about what Nellie's organization has done and other organizations like the Toledo Institute for Development and Environment with support from Compact has been to really engage these resource users in the process, because they hold a lot of the knowledge and they are the ones identifying the replenishment zones, for example, the boundaries of those places. So it's an exciting development. So very quickly, a few lessons learned. As Terrence mentioned earlier, we're in the process of bringing out a benchmark publication reflecting on the 12 years of Compact's work. And I think one of the points that Balloon brought up in her presentation that is a key lesson, not on the screen here, is the long-term vision. It's that making a commitment over time and then really staying with organizations and supporting them. And that long-term vision has given us longitudinal experience at site level in 9 countries, 8 sites, most of them World Heritage or one in the tentative list. That I hope we can all be thinking about how can this be extended to other World Heritage settings where we're dealing with this thorny question of community engagement and sustainable development. And as we talked about this morning in the Protected Planet Pavilion, this question of upstream and downstream involvement, so that if we can learn from experience at site level, we can really move things along. So quickly, just a couple slides on some of the lessons learned. One is really the value of the landscape approach, working at landscape level, which forces us then to take into account different kinds of governance regimes, working with different communities and stakeholders, and I think Compact has developed a lot of very effective methodologies for doing that. One of the things I think is a huge strength of Compact's model is this balance between being strategic, analytical, and at the same time very participatory. So it's that idea that it's rooted in science, and one should add as well culture, that there's actually a model, there's a planning framework, but it's also a highly participatory process, and this really comes down to the individuals and the local organizing committees and their ability to work with different stakeholders at every stage of the process. We've talked here as well about the power of synergy, the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, that when you are doing something more than just one kind of activity, not just grant making, but along with grant making, capacity building activities, networking, supporting some of the livelihoods initiatives with marketing, fostering exchanges among the communities. And there's some wonderful examples, for example, between Belize and Mexico, the honey work as well as the fisheries work, that these things work together. And so, again, the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts. And Compact doesn't just float in isolation, as Terrence showed us earlier. Compact is a program of the Global Environmental Facilities Small Grants Program, which is implemented by UNDP. The SGP is working in, please remind me, Terrence, how many countries? 100? As of today, right? Because it keeps growing. 127 and counting. And long track record of sustaining environmental benefits over time, strong commitment to accountability, to transparency, a strong belief in the role of social capital and building capacity. And so this is something that I think compact is rooted in that. And its institutional structures reflect the culture of the SGP, including these principles of sharing power. We can all recognize that community-led initiatives require many things that aren't easy, building of trust, and again, Balloon's point about the win-win relationship of equity versus a conflictual relationship. That's something founded on trust, the patience of making a commitment over time, putting in institutions and processes that are transparent and foster broad public participation. And Terence shared some examples from Mexico where by having documents and having meetings in the Mayan language, it opened up complex processes to a much broader group of people, and was fundamental in building that trust. And this all has tremendous relevance to protected areas, World Heritage and other kinds of protected areas all over, and certainly highly relevant to some of the themes we've been talking about at this Congress. I know today is a big day for World Heritage on the agenda, but we made some of these points at the very beginning of the week as well. That yes, World Heritage struggles with, or grapples with some of these questions about community engagement. Looking at examples of experience from site level can help lead the way. And in the case of Compact, having the lessons, keeping them close to the protected area, tracking progress over time, and building outward across the landscape, not only at landscape level, but also at national and regional levels is an important aspect. And then there are the institutions that are put in place, including not just the global coordinators who themselves each are individuals who I think are just doing a terrific job in their own setting. As I mentioned in earlier presentations, I've had the privilege of visiting now 7 of the, or 6 of the 8 compact sites, 7 of the countries, and each individual coordinator is really qualified for what they're doing in terms of their experience. But it's also the institution and putting in place these local consultative bodies, which could have potential for other kinds of engagement of communities in World Heritage. Very quickly, to review some points we were asked to make on the first day of the Congress in a session on World Heritage, messages that we might offer to, for example, to UNESCO on possible priorities. And sorry for that heading, which is kind of vague. But anyway, one message we would like to give to UNESCO and also to IUCN is please do take the opportunity to learn from site-level initiatives about effective ways to engage communities at every stage, from nomination to the actual stewardship of the World Heritage Site, and as well as the broader landscape. To embrace the diversity of governance types, I think that is a question that we're only just getting at with World Heritage. Here's governance being very high on the agenda of IUCN for the coming quadrennium, and I think IUCN and UNESCO need to recognize the diversity of governance types and try to support that, and build and strengthen partnerships with actors such as Compact, because it's only through these partnerships that we'll really be able to help World Heritage meet its full potential. And again, further priorities that might be offered directly to IUCN, getting on this, addressing this question of governance, advising the World Heritage Center on that, and building on IUCN's own commitment to governance. IUCN has a huge global membership, as we know, 12,300 members and counting, and a highly developed regional structure. This is a way to engage civil society organizations more directly in World Heritage, and that can be enormously helpful in the context that we're in. And we, Knowledge Cafe, that several people in this room were in yesterday, and subsequent sessions have talked a lot about the nature-culture divide. And again, I think IUCN is well placed to try to help bring those things together. So lots of lessons learned. I'd like to invite maybe a couple of questions now. I think Terence is going to moderate us through that process. We'll then turn it over to Marina for her presentation. Thank you.
Questions, clarifications, comments?
should all come up so that they need to.
Well, Melanie, this is just a short comment, but firstly, thank everybody for this fantastic presentation. What an inspiring program this is, and the more of these to see, the incredible will be. Just to say that the theme on Indigenous peoples, local communities, equity and protected areas, TILSEPA, which is an intercommission body between IUC and SEAS, we have a specialist working group for World Heritage Governance. So we are looking for people who are from whatever background, professional, community leadership, people who have experience in contact, to join in that listserv. And part of what we're looking at is developing expert advisory groups who can help assess UN nomination, World Heritage nomination processes, give guidance to UNESCO, governments, communities, NGOs. So if you're interested, you should get in touch with TILSEPA, and you're more than welcome to join us in that work.
Penny Figures, Director of the Australian Community for IUCN. Fantastic and wonderful presentations again, and as somebody who explored Palawan and have a lot of contact with the Indigenous... Does it self-turn off?
Here you go, you got it. We heard it over here.
Somebody had signaled me that it wasn't working. Okay, is that better? Okay, I explored Palawan in 1979, and I explored the underground river, and so I know it very well. My question really is the resilience once the funding dries up. I hate to be cynical, but how strong are these initiatives? Are they built to last, and when the funding dries up? Because we all know the problem. You invest, you get this tremendous commitment, and we're all enthusiastic, and the funding dries up, and it's or else, and then there's a gap where somebody with less benign motives can enter.
I think Terence would be well suited to answer that. Can we maybe if we keep one up here and then one last one there?
Okay, perhaps handle that last one first. So really quick points. Firstly, in 2007, the SGP underwent peak evaluation. About 22 different evaluators visited. I think it was 16 countries. Very expensive. I think the most expensive evaluation the GS ever did. And one of their main conclusions was that the sustainability, ownership of projects funded by SGP was significantly higher than other GS investments. I think what you've seen today in terms of the way most of the funding goes to, communities are going to be there whether or not the funding is there. Sometimes NGOs may be different, they have highs and lows and so on. So I think that's a point about the overall structure of partnering the SGP approach. Now, when it comes to compact itself in the aid sites, the SGP will continue to be a partner, we hope, as long as the programs are still there. The World Heritage Lead Program is another stepping stone that we see for some of the groups that are actually capable and ready to absorb modern finance and to grow their small and medium enterprises. We found that it's very difficult to actually do loans of $20,000, and hopefully we'll be able to build on that. But I think the more interesting fourth point is that we do need to think of a way in which to flow finance to local organizations through the income which is coming in through World Heritage. Now, we could get our thinking caps off about how to do that. I've certainly visited World Heritage sites with massive increases in revenue fees through the World Heritage listing, but no apparent mechanism to feed that back to any of the conservation activities in the site. And I personally have always thought that the state parties should report on revenue to the World Heritage Committee and show that there is a reinvestment in conservation. And should that happen, then you could use a mechanism like a local consultative body like that to review small projects in World Heritage site. So each one will be different, but the scale of the problems and so on. But I think World Heritage is attracting investment. The tour operators are making a lot of money out of these sites, so it's it's not impossible. Other sites which are less iconic, I think there are maybe less opportunities, but there really should be that possibility for heritage.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if anyone else wanted to speak from a point of view of the national coordinator, but maybe not. Perhaps not.
Just to say that TILSEPR is a marvelous network for those of you that don't know TILSEPR, and I would encourage anyone in the room to engage with it. Maybe we should get more of our HTTP. Hulul is one example of a TILSEPR member, but we have many of our other national coordinators in HTTP that are not members of TILSEPR, so maybe Nigel, you can help us recruit more Hululs to learn from your network. So any more comments, questions before we...
Maybe just take one more, there's one back there, and then we'll move to the next stage. Keep on time.
Hi, my name is Yogi. I just want to find out how your compact group, your core group, engages the wider community, and also how they deal